I don't like wrestling shoes for bench. The reason why is because when you start pushing against the sides of your shoe and you're wearing a wrestling shoe, it has a tendency to bring up the shoe, and a referee is looking for any movement of the foot. They see your foot lift off, they are likely to give you a red light because they'll say that, well, your foot wasn't flat. And that's something that a lot of refs are very anal about. Making sure, please get a good spotter. And what I mean is a good spotter is like when you're seeing in videos and you see someone just standing there, that is not a good spotter. A good spotter is someone who's going to be ready to grab the bar. How quick do you think someone's going to be able to grab the bar if their hands are like this? And it's coming down on your chest. You have to get someone you trust. So many people have gotten into crazy situations and have hurt themselves because someone said they understood what it means to spot, and they have no idea. Quick story, I asked the guy to spot me. I said I was doing negatives. I was like, you know what negatives is? He said yes. He gave me the lift off. I brought it down, and I'm holding it on my chest. I'm like, you know what a negative is? You're supposed to take it up. And he looked at me, and he had no clue. I said, just pick up the weight. Like something as simple as that. Make sure, like I said, the people that you're dealing with actually understand the concepts of what you're doing when you're training. Additionally, I'll do like a brief run through about the equipment. Equipment when you're a raw lifter, shoes. Knee sleeves if you want to wear them. It's up to you. Wrist wraps. I prefer long wrist wraps. Like I said, I just feel like they give you extra support, extra tension. You're able to pull a little bit more around the wrist. Some people like shorter ones. A lot of my friends who are big benchers ask me, why do you use short wraps? I said, it feels comfortable. Who wants to sit there and wrap for 60 million years? And they're like, no, trust me, you need it. So it's also a matter of preference. Belt. If you can, most people that I'm aware of use like the regular style, like squat deadlift belt, but you could get to a point that where you can actually get yourself a bench belt, especially if you're an archer. A bench belt would probably, for those of you who've never seen one, it's like pretty much it's just half the size of this. And it literally, it's just designed to go same way, distance around your waist. It helps when you're arching because the thing is, because the belt is so wide, and if you are an archer, and most of us are, is that it actually helps to decrease the distance. But I wish I had a belt so I could show you. But it's basically half the size of that. Oh, you have one? Okay, good.
So do you always wear a belt when you're benching?
When I start to get to the heavier sets, yes. I primarily do that for all the 3 main lifts, bench, squat, and deadlift. I'll do them beltless until I get to a certain percentage, 80, 85, yeah. Is that when I'll start wearing the belt. So that's a bench belt. It basically, oh, I can do it with that. Let's see. I won't even lock it. So like when you get into place and you arch up, yeah. You see how it's easier around here versus if it was wider.
Yeah.
It takes up a little, it may pinch you. But I mean, I've also benched for years with a wider belt. I'm just saying if you get to a point where you want to just try something different and see if you feel a difference in your bench. I'm not saying it's going to add anything to your bench. It's a matter of making yourself comfortable. Equip bench. There's Titan and Inter are the 2 biggest companies when it comes to single ply equipment. My advice to you is to get with someone who already has equipment because most of us have old equipment. It'll save you some money, and if a friend is willing to part with that old equipment, it allows you to try some stuff on and get an idea of what works for you rather than you have to go out and spend that $150, $200 or whatever it's going to cost you for one bench shirt. Because remember, they're custom. Do not buy the stock. The stock is not going to work for you because each person is different. We're all individuals. So you want a custom suit or a custom bench shirt that's specifically designed for you. And you're going to end up having to get it tweaked anyway if you buy something stock because it wasn't designed for you. It could give you a general idea, getting the range as far as the size is concerned. But trust me, every little tweak helps. It has to be, it's almost like a second skin when you're going to wear equipment. So it needs to be yours and only yours.
How long do you think a bench shirt would last?
As long as you want it to last. It's a matter of also how often you're using it. I can tell you, like, some of us, when you start to get to the higher level, and especially when you're sponsored, you get free equipment every year. Do you necessarily need it every year? Some may say yes or no. But it'll last you a few years. And what ends up happening is, like I said, is I actually give my old equipment to my coach and he gives it to newer lifters. So that way they can get the opportunity to try it out and see what it feels like. Because that way it's already broken in. And that's the other thing you have to realize. When you buy equipment, it's not broken in. And it's a process. It could take a few weeks. Sometimes because you're more experienced, you could get it done in maybe 2 or 3 weeks. But it can take a while because that stuff, it's not very forgiving. So.
I just want to add too, like you need to develop a really good relationship with the local seamstress or place.
Oh yes.
Especially like we just buy stock stuff and then get it adjusted, and it's like you get it adjusted, take it out, train it, take it back, get it adjusted. It's like a race car. You know, you run a lap and then you go in the pit and you have to pick to adjust it. And a really good seamstress is really important.
Especially for the spots itself.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm happy that you said that specifically about the actual having a seamstress. If stock is usually cheaper than the custom, so if you are going to get it, yeah, like he said, you got to get a seamstress because you're definitely going to be going back and forth to him or her, having them tweak it until it's perfectly fit for you. So.
You can always get a bigger suit made smaller, but you can't get a smaller suit made
Don't add panels to the small stuff. That's pretty much it. Oh, wait a minute. Yes. Accessory equipment. I like the Titan Ram and the slingshot.
Yeah, and I want to tell the lifters when you go to someone like a tailor or something, make sure they make the seams on the original seams. If they make another one, you will be disqualified or the equipment will be rejected. You can't make a new one. It must have to be the original seam. So to make it short, it have to be on the original seam.
And they will check. So, I was mentioning about the Titan Ram, or also I believe a slingshot is another version of it. It's basically the front chest panel of a bench shirt, and then they add arms to it. But what I like about using it is that it allows you to use heavier weight. It allows you to help learn to build that confidence using heavier weight without having to actually throw on a bench shirt. And it's really helpful, I think, with regards to helping to improve your strength. If you have someone, if your gym already has, or if you know someone who has one, make sure it's actually one that fits you. You can't be a medium woman using like an extra large. You're just not going to get the effect. It should be snug as if you were wearing a bench shirt. Additionally, board press. You could go to I don't know, you guys have Home Depot and Lowe's up here, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm American. If you don't know anyone who has a board press, you could go to Home Depot yourself and get some 2x4s and make your own. I mean, it's really that easy. Rather than you go online and spend a buku money buying them, you could just go and spend a few dollars. I also use one that's called the Bench Blocks. It just came out in the last year. It's made of some high density foam stuff. And it basically has like 2 to 5 board lines in it. It's like a board. It's literally like probably this size. And I like that because it snaps right onto the bar. So, but if you can't get it,
Yes, most of the lifters here, they know Glenn Moore. He makes one. Yeah, that's the one.
so yeah.
So I think $25, $30. Yeah, this is the best that you can buy.
And it's custom, and they can also put rhinestones on it for you. No, seriously, where's the rhinestone one? But
Rose is pink with rhinestones.
Aaron,
Yeah.
can you just show that? Can we get a shot of that board and just show the 1, 2, 3 sides?
so that's a
It's
2
actually-
board. That's a
It's
2.
it's a 1, 2, and a 3.
Okay.
So
One board,
Ah, okay.
2 board.
3 board. Okay. Yep.
And then
There's the
sparkly
rhinestone one. So
yeah.
they will make them custom for you.
I cleaned it myself, but
Oh.
they did paint it for me.
You charge them $30.
Yeah.
$30 reasonable to get the workmanship.
Yeah, I knew you
The board press allows you to work on pretty much every aspect of your bench, helping you to become more confident in it. So based on the boards from 1 to 3, it allows you that time to actually become strong in that particular range of motion of the bench. That's why a lot of them use it. I love benches, bench boards, or board press. That's pretty much it. So we can get to work. Any questions? Nope, let's go.
I wanted to ask about
Yes.
training with knee wraps if I don't ever want to lift with equipment, just to stop the stress on my knee.
Wraps, or what do you specifically mean? You mean the
If I use like wraps, would it save my knee a little bit?
they put it on so tight that it'll actually start to interfere with the way the muscle functions.
Okay.
For a muscle to be able to contract, it shortens. But even if you look at a bicep, when it contracts, it's shortened, but it also expands.
Okay.
So if you have on a wrap enough, and especially if it starts going over the belly of the muscle itself, it'll actually start to interfere with the way the muscle engages.
Okay.
We know you have some knee history there, so I'm not sure if that's necessarily, if you want a tight wrap up here, on the patellar tendon would be one thing, but if you start putting it up onto the muscle belly itself, it might interfere with the way the muscle engages because it can't expand, and it actually will shut off. This is why when Home Depot, I don't know, say 10 years ago, they looked at their claims as, wow, we pay a lot of money on low back pain. Our employees are really hurting their backs. So they thought, it's gonna be cheaper for us if we put back braces on everyone, and then we'll get rid of those expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what happened? Their back claims went way up because the muscles couldn't function properly, so they weren't bracing themselves. So if you had just something, it just depends on where it is and how tight it is.
Okay.
But there'll definitely be a point where it'll interfere.
I'm trying to think the questions to ask you guys.
Actually, I do have a question. What type of mobility and recovery work are you guys all doing? Because I feel tight and stiff all the time. I foam roll, but what else could I add into it?
Have you heard of mobilitywod.com? There's a guy from San Francisco. He's involved in CrossFit. His name is Dr. Kelly Starrett, and he started something in 2010 called the Mobility Project, and he had a video every day for 365 days. So just like simple little drills, and started this huge movement of mobility. And it's just like basic daily maintenance. One of his main things that he says all the time is like every human should be able to perform basic maintenance on themselves. There's tons of information out there. You can educate yourself. His book is called Becoming a Supple Leopard. It's it's like a big textbook, and it's got a whole plethora of drills that you can apply based on, you develop a recipe. So what's wrong with Laura, find out what your little things are, and then a daily recipe for addressing those. It's like, you're going to accumulate those from work, from the way we sit with bad position, and then also from lifting on top of it, and it needs to be addressed. And one thing that I always like to try to sell this to people is, because it's not very fun, and it's not very flashy and glorious to do mobility work, but if we sell it from the point of view of not to prevent injuries, but of to perform better. So if you start doing this mobility recipe every day and you can lift more, the chances are that you will do that more frequently, correct? So if you look at it from that point, yeah.
There'll also be a point, though, if you become enough of a specialist in an activity, your nervous system will start to focus in on that to be better at your activity. But unfortunately, then it'll start being at the expense of other things. So with all of, if you were to become first like a high-level power lifter, then that's what you do. Your training is based on that, and for you to be the best at it, that's what you have to do. But the thing is, if you look at all the lifts, all of them are set with your feet in equal position. So whether you're squatting, deadlifting, or benching, your feet are set. But the thing is, for instance, your spinal muscles and your pelvic muscles are made to contract, to keep them relaxed in an alternating fashion. But you guys are all contracting all together. So it's something that everyone who knows me, spends their time with me, they hear me say this all the time: go for a walk, but don't walk like a power lifter. Power lifters have been doing it long enough. All that happens is the motion just happens at the hips. There's nothing else that moves, right? So what happens? I was actually at a nationals meet a few years ago, and I was with a bunch of lifters. We went out for lunch, and the light changed. We were crossing the street, and we were supposed to go. And I saw panic in eyes because they couldn't. Right? They can do this, but they can't do this.
Yeah.
So we're supposed to move in an opposite motion, and that's not what the lifts do. So you just almost have to keep connected to walking. Like, even in the most basic sense, like that book that Paul was referring to is more specific things you can do for different parts. But even just going for a walk, but thinking about your shoulders moving with your opposite hips will help relax back muscles. Because if you do it, and you have to do it for 10 minutes, because then you'll develop a neurological rhythm and it'll make things relax. But if you just walk locked like a lifter, your back muscles contract and they hold. But if you lengthen your stride and get everything moving in a crossed pattern, then they'll start to pump. And it'll start to soften up the muscles.
I have this theory that we don't want to be too flexible anyways as powerlifters, that actually our scar tissue and adhesion helps sometimes.
A built-in suit.
But since we're powerlifters, I wouldn't recommend you take on yoga. Okay, no, seriously, because it's working against you. Honestly, you don't need that range of motion. You really don't. You know, I remember my very first Worlds watching the Russians warm up, and nobody was hitting depth. I thought, this is crazy. What's going on? These guys are in trouble. They were talking, they were carrying on a conversation with weights that I couldn't even squat at that time, and not really paying attention. And then, you know, started getting close to getting out on the platform. They were down where they needed to be. So most of them were too tired actually get into these heavy weights. They couldn't actually get down until they were well into their warm-up sets. So just an observation. You know, things have changed since then, but that was the reality of it. So you don't need to do yoga. Okay. Otis loves yoga. You should talk to Otis about yoga. Yeah, that's a great conversation.
Otis made a comment to me last week though, because I asked about my bench, and my bench is just not so good at the moment, and I'm saying, why is this? And he said, you just trained for a triathlon.
Yeah, it's specializing with the nervous system. You had your nervous system doing other things. If you have to connect to the motion you're doing, and that's what you had to do to, right? To just change gear, you have to reconnect.
Yeah. And honestly, I would have never thought about that until he said it.
That kind of goes hand in hand with what we talked about at lunchtime, with doing CrossFit, powerlifting, and being a professional bowler and stuff. You can't be great at all things. You can be okay at a lot of things. You can't be great at all. You gotta pick your balance.
Yes.
Any general thoughts on purposeful wellness training for a powerlifter? And not so much just keeping the belt off on warm-ups, but purposely doing volume work and heavy work without a belt.
I think it depends on the lifter myself. You know, if somebody is every time they hit the hole, the first thing that moves is their hips, and they're good morning it up and say, maybe we need to do some front squats for a while and get that sorted out, and maybe put the belt on to start your work sets. Right? It's I don't think there's a really direct right answer. My own opinion I can give you on that one, but some of my training, I like to do heavy powerlifting style squats, and I'll back it off high bar, narrow stance pause. Without a belt. Right? So I guess I'm just hedging on that. So.
I agree with Mark. The only other thing that I would say is that obviously when you're going to get to a point, you're not going to be able to squat, bench, or deadlift the same amount or more than you do with the belt. It just gets to a point. It's great if you want to work on core and improving your core strength, but the reality is that if your intention is also to lift more weights, the belt is going to help you do that. A beltless cycle, as some people like to say, is only going to help to a certain point. There's going to have to be a point where you're going to have to throw on the belt so you can get. And if you ever wanted to test it yourself, try it. If you try a few weeks without doing the belt, and then see the difference as far as it feels and as far as you being able to lift that weight with the same intensity, and see if you see a difference. I promise you to see a difference between using the belt without. And that's not to say that I don't agree with it, because I do the same thing. I use it on my warm-up sets. And sometimes, occasionally, for the lighter sets, I will do a beltless cycle. But I know that when I get to a certain percentage, that it's time for me to throw the belt on, because your form and everything else starts to break down the heavier you go with the weight.
You just can't load, right? Because this may look like fat, and perhaps it is. However, it's a function of formulas function. It's driving out against the bone. You need that tension. Right from when you get underneath the bar, to take the bar, to take your first step back. This, and this needs to be all fired. It needs to be engaged. And if this is loose, you're stuttering, you don't have a belt, you haven't got anything to load, it's I don't think it's safe. I think it's counterproductive. It's unsafe.
The way I thought made the most sense of that, I've just been saying this to other people, is if you had theoretically a pair of identical twins who did the same amount of training up to that point in life, put them in the middle of the room and they push against each other as hard as they can, theoretically they shouldn't move. Should be the same. But if you take those twins and move them over towards a wall where one of the twins can put a foot on the wall, he's going to move the other person. It's something to brace off of. It allows the abdominal muscles, the core muscles to have something to push off of. And it'll just make you stronger.
And when you ask the question, you use the term like, first of all, and Mark had mentioned too, like depending on the lifter, I think that there's definitely some benefits for I use the term training age, a younger training age, a newer lifter, to do some volume work without a belt, because it develops the ability to, become aware of developing your own tension. But at the same time, as like Kim said, when the weights get heavier, it needs to go on. I think there's definitely a benefit to lighter weights of volume. You have a volume phase, and I'm going to train without a belt for a while to develop that ability to develop tension on your own. I've always found that if you do a bit of a beltless phase, I train beltless quite often, do a beltless phase, then when you throw the belt on, you just feel like you've found another gear, because it does, everything's so much more stable. It's kind of fun too, it's just mental. Throw the belt on, whoa, way stronger.
Yeah. Everybody's different. I mean, my PB deadlift was without a belt, but it was also lighter. So was that leverages? Good day, we'll call it. Are you good?
About 5 more minutes, so maybe 2 questions.
Okay, hold on. So, what can you recommend for newer lifters to achieve a level of longevity? I'm in my 20s right now, and I just started lifting about 5 years ago, but I also want to lift when I'm 30, 40, 50.
That's pretty old.
60. I don't know. Like, are there any hard lessons that you've learned?
I gotta get up. Are you gonna get up? Longevity? Well, mobility's certainly part of it, right? Like, what would you do, Paul? Start with stuff you're not good at. Focus on core. Develop your posterior chain.
Training smart.
Get good form.
That's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Training smart, not blowing yourself apart all the time. Like I said before, it's more of a marathon. It's not like you said. You want to live further on in your life, and you set your goals. As you get better, it's progression.
Okay. To that point, how many hours a week do you train? And what is considered an optimum amount of time, so that you're not breaking down or overtraining or
That's a really hard question to answer.
Yeah.
It's the quality of the training.
Yeah.
Making sure that you're getting everything you want to get done in that time frame.
Yeah.
Unless you're telling yourself that you specifically have a certain time frame, like you're saying, I only have an hour and a half work
Yeah.
that day, then you have to
That's it.
specifically, cater yourself, whatever exercises and training you're going to do to that hour and a half. You can't stuff everything in,
Yeah.
because in addition to you doing those exercises, you're also going to need rest time.
Yeah. Well,
In between
exactly.
those.
That's
You have to look at your overall stressors for the week as a human organism.
Yeah.
Were you training for a triathlon too?
Yeah. Yeah.
How many CrossFit workouts are you doing?
Yeah.
How much are you getting super stressed out from work, or your dog is dying, whatever? Maybe there's many other stressors that come into play on that, and recovery time.
And you know what? You should really honestly, good workouts are sometimes only 4 or 5 different movements, but how many reps did you miss? Okay, and how many reps did you blow your brains out to get?
Yeah.
Right? So there's quality. And if you're going to the wall all the time, you're making too many withdrawals. Okay, you got to make the pause, because that's how you move forward in the sport. Right? If your CNS and your PNS are pissed off with you all the time, you're not going to go very far. Your form's going to get sloppy. That's when the elbow's going to hurt, the knee's going to hurt, the back's going to hurt, and you're just not going to feel good. So it's all of this.
And trust in your gut.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how many of you have ever experienced this. I feel like most of us are up here, but you ever know that when you're getting ready to do a set, and something just doesn't feel right, and you still do it?
Yeah.
As you get older, you start to get smarter about that, and you start telling yourself, maybe I should listen, because there's a chance I'm going to hurt myself.
Get honest.
So seriously, those times will come, and I'm sure most of us feel the same way. It's just trust your gut, and if something is saying something's not right, then pull back and figure out what you need to fix before you attempt that, because most likely it probably could end in you hurting yourself. And I can even say I've done stupid things along the years, so I have no problem. I can own up to it, but it comes with time, and you learn.
Yeah.
And things are going to change as you get older too, right?
Yeah.
Your volume is going to have to go down a little bit.
Yeah.
The stronger you get, the more your volume will have to decrease as well, because the intensity goes up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I was just wondering, are there certain vitamins and things that you think you should not live without?
Water.
Water.
It's a necessity.
Yeah, this is kind of like the elixir here.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, most of that stuff is designed to, sorry, I know I may offend, but in my opinion, it's engineered to remove money from your wallet.
Yeah.
Okay, to
Yeah.
go into somebody else's wallet. So, I'm not I have a very short list of stuff. I'm
So what is your short list?
Well, I don't know if I should even say anything. Okay, you've asked. Caffeine, because it's a good fat burner, and on those days, if I'm not focused on my workouts, 200 milligrams gets me where I need to be. So, whey isolate, creatine monohydrate, and sometimes I like taking vitamin C after a hard workout. But
Ladies, you take creatine as well?
I like what they're saying specifically. I like to look for creatines that don't have any water loading phase, because that was a big deal, especially when you're trying to make weight. Water loading, so you retain water.
not monohydrate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I use
Not.
Okay.
if you want to ask like after whatever, I can tell you like some of the ones I've used that I know I've never retained water from using. And the only other thing I use different from everything he said I use that stuff is just the pre-workout. That's the only thing. Like when I'm having a really heavy day, and I've done it without, because just sometimes I forget to bring my pre-workout, but so you can do it without. But sometimes just having an extra kit, like he says, I use a pre-workout with caffeine, and then I just feel like I could walk through walls. It's just
That's my
intense.
that's my pre-workout is the caffeine.
Yeah.
That's what it's for.
And the creatine and protein is after?
You can take it before, during, and after. Or you can take it daily. It's up to you.
Protein's just like food.
Yeah.
Convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
I like Mark's list. The only ones that I would add to it would be a little bit of electrolyte or vitamin C, especially in the hot summer. Because we're, the first thing I said was water. Hydration plays a huge role, but when we sweat out, especially the last few weeks, we've had some hot weather. You sweat out a lot of fluids. You also sweat out a lot of base elements, and the water alone doesn't replace them, so you need to replace those. And the other one on my list would be I like branched chain aminos. I don't. It's like Kim said. Sometimes there's things where you just don't have any proof, but many people before me that I admired were just like always sipping on aminos, and I think I buy
That's in
into
my
it.
pre-workout.
Yeah.
Some of it's included.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
It's a nice to have. It's maybe not a need to have, but
Yeah.
it does remove money from your wallet.
BCAAs,
Yeah,
right?
BCAAs.
But look for it, like you're saying, that when you're looking to buy your supplements, look to see if they double up with some of the things that you need. Like you said, like the protein, creatine, or you said your pre-workout would sometimes have that additional stuff. The
Vitamins do.
glutamine, everyone always talks about having glutamine in there. So it'll help you save some money, because yes, we all know that supplements are expensive.
And all of that being said, like, it's not like creatine's gonna throw 30 pounds on your toe. They're all just little pieces of the pie that help you perform as a better human being in general.
Okay, so something else, like look up the definition of supplement. Right, what is a supplement, right? So if you're not eating, you're not sleeping, right? You're eating crap, you're what's the 3 B's, right? You're doing 2 out of the 3 B's.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
Things are not gonna go well. So take care of your basics first, honestly.
I always, we run a general fitness facility too, so a lot of people come in and they want to buy some fat burners.
Yeah.
And, this is just, what I always tell them is, you can buy these and spend some money, but if you still eat ice cream and all those other things, and you're not working and you're not eating correctly, this is just money, on the ground.
Yeah.
And all those other
Hey, you're back.
all the supplements we've listed is exactly the same thing.
Let's take one more question, or unless you
Just
want
one
to
quick thing about the pre-workout. Please follow the instructions. If it says do not take any more than 2 or 3 scoops in a 24-hour period, they're serious about that. Additionally,
You will not sleep.
seriously, do not take it within 3 to 4 hours of going to sleep because you will be wired. It will keep you up.
Yeah.
So, just that's all.
One final question?
Oh, can I just add something about
Absolutely,
pre-workouts?
yeah.
Sorry. And not at a meet.
Yeah.
And not at a meet.
Don't try it at a meeting.
Don't
Oh, yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't use it.
Do not use a pre-workout at a meet.
Like, don't let it be your first time trying
Do not.
at a meet.
No, you will test positive.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Even
okay?
with Olympic approved.
Well, be
It's
really
splitting hairs.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably best just take 200 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah.
You're not going to test positive for that.
Yeah.
Okay? Just I'm telling you. Close personal friend and my other hat anyways. So don't do that. You will test positive. Which is unfortunate because it's 2 years.
So does that lead you to should you never take it?
You're not out of competition. There's no sanction. WADA doesn't have issue with methylhexylamine, whatever, the list. Right? But I'm telling you at a meet they do. Okay? So don't.
So does that stay in your bloodstream for a long period of time?
Long enough for you to test positive. If you were grabbed at a meet, you will come.
No, but I mean, say you took it the day before.
Just stay away from it for a day or so. Just make sure.
You wouldn't be doing a harder workout the day before anyways.
Yeah.
I can give you some suggestions for ones to take that I've tried, and only because I get drug tested all the damn time, so I've never ever had any issues, so I can just talk to you guys about it after if anyone has any interest on some things.
Yeah.
And not because, like I said, I'm not marketing their stuff. I'm telling you, this is stuff I've actually used. So,
But does it
or
hurt?
used.
Does it hurt not to take it? Because I don't.
If you don't want to
I'm
take
just
it,
mad at myself
Is
if I forget. I'm like, damn it.
You're gonna have a good
Workout
workout
today.
A good stiff coffee is a great pre-workout.
And a good fat burner.
Anybody have any real pressing last question? You want to cap it at that. Of course, you'll have access to keep asking more questions.
This is a quick lady question. The guys already know about this. When you are competing, especially us, like when it comes to the deadlift, and you may feel like you have to go to the bathroom, and people have had accidents. Well, if you cannot go to the bathroom, you can always wear a sanitary pad. Sanitary pad.
Or more.
Or more.
Or more.
Just FYI, if you've never tried it, it works.
If you've gone into the bathroom, like, and just here in the studio, there's usually a big pack of them sitting right there next to the toilet paper. You can check it.
Poised.
They're well used, yes. But
Well,
we have
they're not
yet-
sanitary.
We have yet to find a brand that really hits the powerlifting market. So maybe.
It's an opportunity.
If it starts to flow, you better get it. That's all.
All right. All right. Thanks, guys.
Somebody asked that question, so just piss yourself. and lift it.
Let's take a few minutes and maybe just to facilitate this, get prepped to bench press. So get all your stuff, get prepped to bench press.
I'll make it quick because we can have time to go
Yeah,
right into
Kimberly's
bench.
gonna
Let's do
just
this.
give us the
It'll be like less
411
than
on
5
bench,
minutes.
and then we'll get right into pressing. All right, so you got 5 minutes.
I was looking to fine-tune some of my lifting techniques, and I feel that my squat is going to be much better. Actually, just doing a couple things that Sarah and Paul have pointed out, just tucking my butt in and pushing my knees out when I come up. So I'm really happy so far. And then the mental imagery of just visualizing my lifts. And maybe being a little more positive, thinking I'm going to do it, and a little more conservative with my openers in competition. I think that I would I was looking at the records. I'd like to break some records. I'm a master's too, so I'm 53 right now. So it's a little bit easier for me to break records, but I've just had a huge weight loss, so I have records in the heavier weight classes. So I have a goal now. I have to lose a few kilos and still keep my strength and try to break a couple more records before before I can't do it anymore. Actually, just meeting the people, talking to the ladies, and realizing that we have so much in common. Yeah, the confidence that this gives us, and the sharing of being with all the ladies. Yeah, and it just personally, powerlifting's made me a lot more confident in myself. I used to be terrified to go up on stage, my very first one, and thinking that people were looking at me and how fat I was. And the very first competition I did was kind of empowering. But this, like in my personal life, this kind of thing, it just makes me a stronger person. Oh, I would think this is an invaluable resource. I think you'd be well on your way to competing. And I met a girl at the gym in Petrolia a couple weeks ago, and I wish I had mentioned this to her. She was very strong, and she was asking me how to get started in powerlifting. For some reason, I didn't think of it. And you know what? If I had given this to her, she probably would have come. It probably would have just let her meet people that would help her actually start competing. Yeah, I would highly recommend it. Yeah, I'm glad to be able to come. Like in Thunder Bay, we have nothing, to go to, so it's good to come to this area.